just miss it? Did you miss that was
somebody missed
so
it.
important? But you are the authors of the book. Did you just miss it?
It's in the book.
It's in the
and we
miss it in the New York Times opinion piece.
And we first had it in the piece. And so it's about an editing process which is iterative. It has a lot of different drafts. And, I think actually the way it happened was the editors being concerned about naming her, because the Times has a tradition of not naming the victims and really has to deliberate whether or not to do that. In that sentence that had her name, it also had that she doesn't remember it. They took out the whole sentence. And in removing her name, in order to kind of protect her and make sure we weren't sort of sending people to her door, we also took out the fact that she didn't remember it.
Did you read it right before it went to print?
We thought we had, and as soon as we realized this, we corrected it, and they wrote an editor's note and they restored it.
But didn't you realize it because Molly Hemingway made the correction? And I just want to know blankly, can you understand why so many people think that this might be a hatchet job?
Yes, and I actually think, Megan, it's a good point, because the reason we did this book in the first place was that this was such an incredibly polarizing event in our country's history. Everyone saw in it what they wanted to see. It was used for political purposes at the time. It's being used again for political
we're living out a
purposes
version
now.
of that right now.
And this is writ large. I mean, people have seized on details in our book. The reason we did this was to revisit these events with 10 months of reporting, to give an in-depth portrait, frankly, to actually look more closely at Brett Kavanaugh and who he is, what kind of person he was as a young boy, through high school, through college, what kind of professional he was, what were his 12 years on the court before he got to the court, and we actually found that he was, we have found that we corroborate these stories of Deborah Ramirez and Christine Blasey Ford, but in the 36 years since, Brett Kavanaugh has been a better man. Whether he realized the error of his ways, and he consciously reformed himself, or he grew up and simply matured, he has been an exemplary judge. Everyone we talked to couldn't speak more highly of him on both sides of the aisle. And he actually has a much more nuanced view, kind of position on the court. He's not a right-wing ideologue either. He's actually an establishment conservative who has promoted women on the court. So that's something else we wanted to get across here, which is, everybody can kind of demonize him, and everyone can kind of demonize these victims. And the reality is somewhere in between, considerably more complicated, considerably more nuanced, and that's what we're trying to portray in this book.
Yeah. Interesting. And it's well done, by the way.
Thank you.
I read it yesterday. ABC News spoke